Hi everyone, it's Nelda. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for clicking this video. I hope that you're all doing well. Happy Monday. Today I'd like to talk about the basics of junk journaling. I was chatting with an old friend of mine who I haven't seen in a long time. I haven't talked to her for a long time, and I caught her on Facebook the other day and we started chatting. And so we exchange our highs and hellos. What have you been doing lately? And when I said that I've been junk journaling and I'm so hooked to junk journaling and that I make junk journals and sell them, there was this pause. And so she asked me what junk journaling is really all about. And so I realized, oh, okay, yes, not everyone knows what junk journaling is. I directed her to my YouTube channel. Of course, I gained one more subscriber there so that she can see what I have been making and, so that she has an idea what this is all about. And I realized that I have been talking about ephemera and junk journals. I have been sharing my work, my projects, but not everyone really knows what junk journaling really means and what an ephemera is. I have subscribers who are not into this craft and who have subscribed to me because I was sharing projects that can be sold on craft fair events. I have friends who've subscribed to my channel but not really viewing my projects and my videos because they really do not understand what I am into and what junk journaling is all about. So that is why I am going to make this series, and I call this The Joy of Junk Journaling. And so this is the first video where I talk about what junk journal is all about from my point of view, the basic tools and the supplies, where I get them, and I will also show some examples of my personal junk journals. So this video is great if you are just starting and wanting to make your own junk journals, if you would like to understand this craft. And if you are not new to this, I hope that you still stay with me as I make these videos, and hopefully you gain additional inspiration, and hopefully you also make some comments to help me along the way. So let us learn, create, and inspire together. So let us dive in, shall we? First, what is a junk journal? Basically, a junk journal is a book where you record your thoughts or ideas, your memories or experiences, your everyday stuff. And this book is made of recycled materials like cereal boxes, junk mails, old books, old magazines, and newspapers. Anything that you see around the house that you can add or use to make a book, make a page, or decorate your book. In the old days, we call this a diary, but then we add interesting items like old ticket stubs, coupons, junk mails, or pieces of paper that have value to us, our watercolor painting. So all those items can be added to a junk journal. So a junk journal can also be an art journal where you use your artworks like mixed media, your painted paper, and so on as your inside pages or as decorations. And then your junk journal can also be your glue book where you collect images or pictures that inspire you and you glue them down onto a page to create your story or to convey your idea. Here are some examples of my personal junk journals, and this particular one I've shown in one of my videos, and the base of this junk journal is pages from an old catalog from Uline. I have written on all these pages already, so this is a complete journal, and this is actually just a month of my thoughts, my random thoughts. So, yep, I used all the pictures that I think inspire me during those times, and this is a wallpaper cover. The cover is not also decorated, just my nickname, Nay. And then this one I've used over and over again, and I use my cinch to bind the book, and very plain. I have some pictures here, and this is the back. So nothing really much on the cover. This is a picture of my 3 grandkids, and basically I write everything that inspire me and just on random pages. And like there are some, pieces of paper that I just put down and glued down, and this is my grandkid. So yep, this one I have really just used the clean back of junk mails and colorful cardstock, and then I write wherever I want to. Cover also comes from a packaging material, so very plain. And then I have the cover is also from a packaging material, and I covered with fabric, and I believe it has 8 signatures, right? 8 signatures. And then the pages, I have, yes, packaging materials, receipts, digital pages, and I write everywhere. So I also decorated the edges with old laces, and I still have so many pages to use here. So they are not all used, but look, I coffee stained the papers too. There's this packaging material. And then this one I love. This is also complete. This book is really a book that I altered. And so what I did was just to tear up some pages, and then the remaining pages I glued them together. And then I covered with different kinds of papers. And yes, so I have here some pictures and stickers, random pieces of paper. There you go. And I love this because, see, you have here pictures of my grandkids too. And then the cover, I Mod Podged, and this is very sturdy. So this is one of my favorite personal junk journals. And then the next one is this book. So I am still using this because I write here at the end of every month to write down the highlights of my month. And I love the cover. This is also from a packaging material, and just decorated it with different items, stickers, different papers, Japanese paper. And then, so I've already wrote from January to August. So I have, of course, beginning of September. This year I will put a picture because I already know what I will glue down there. And yes, so I am still using this journal. And again, the cover is from a packaging material. I love this lace. It's very pretty in person actually. And then this one. So this junk journal has different cardstock and scrapbook paper, and the cover is from a file folder. I am using this currently. I always have this in my desk because this is where I write, my ideas, what I would like to record next. And I also love this very simple junk journal. And next is my faith journal. So I still consider this a junk journal because I still use, pieces of paper or offcuts, and I just use them as decorations. So this is faith-based, and I love the cover. It is real leather. I love how I did the stitching, and I will have a video of that next time. But again, this is more like a very theme type of journal. it is my prayer or Bible journal. Okay, so now that we know what a junk journal is, how do we make a junk journal? There are no specific rules or guidelines to follow on how you can make your own junk journals. You can use whatever materials you want, you can use whatever methods you also want, but sometimes the job gets too overwhelming, so there are basic steps or tips that you can follow to make this job or this craft easy for you. So the first tip is to know your purpose. Choose a subject, and it does not have to be very specific, but it helps when you know or you have an idea of what you will use this journal for. An example would be you love birds or you love to garden, then you can collect images or items pertaining to this theme. Another example is a travel junk journal. You can use images of maps or sentiments like embrace your journey or travel, and use these items to decorate your pages. Another example, which is very common and is coming soon, is a Christmas junk journal. This is one of my favorite journals to make, and you can use old Christmas cards to decorate your pages. The next step or next tip is to choose your book binding method. And there are many different ways on how you can bind your book. I normally use the Pamphlet stitch binding method because that's the easiest. And here's an example. Here I hid the cord that I used by gluing the sides of the pages together to make it look like an envelope. This one also used a Pamphlet stitch binding, and I'll show you the middle of the signature. There it is. So you can see the cord that I used, and you can also decorate the cord by adding charm. I will have a separate video on how to do pamphlet stitching and the other types of stitch binding. Now this journal is in the making, and I just sew the signatures using a sewing machine, and you won't see it because I covered it with laces and fabric. So that's another simple method if you have the sewing machine and if your book is not very thick. And you can also bind your book using rings. So here I use a plastic coil binding wire, and it's very flexible. That's one method that I also like. For this method, you need a binding machine or a tool to punch the holes. I already showed you this journal, but just showing you that this is another binding wire, and I use the cinch to punch the holes here. But honestly, you do not need these machines to make a junk journal. You can just use your cord or your thread and a needle to bind your book. Or you can also do a no-sew binding method, and I will also have a video showing how I do that. And you can also use the rings that you buy from the dollar store to make beautiful journals. So here are some examples of my work. Simple and very easy binding method. So now that you have decided what type of binding method you are going to use, the next tip is to have your supplies, tools, and materials ready. You may think that in order to make a junk journal, you need to buy all those fancy tools, but the answer is no, you don't have to. What you really need to use to start can be found around your house. And that is number one, pair of scissors. I use several pairs, but you don't have to have several. You can only use one pair if that's what you have. This one I use when the paper has glue. This one is small, so I use it when I fussy cut. But there is really a type of scissors for fussy cutting. And then this sometimes I use when I cut fabric. I cannot find right now my fabric scissors, but yes, I do have one that I really use for fabric. And if you would like to invest on paper trimmer, that is all great. There are several types of paper trimmer. This is what I have been using lately, the Fiskar. I also use the Martha Stewart paper trimmer, but right now I have no blade and I don't know where it is. And then this is another Fiskar, and it's okay too. It's the same as the first one that I showed. So I also like it, and the blade is very easy to find. And I have another trimmer from Recollections, and I also like this because it's double purpose. There's this cutting blade, and then there is this scoring tool. So this is the cutting, this is the scoring tool. So when my scoring pad is not inside, sometimes it gets buried under paper, then I use this. This is the Westcott Titanium. I believe this was my first paper trimmer. So this is okay too because it has also the scoring tool, and I have not used this recently because I've been using the Fiskar trimmer, but this is alright as well. I have one paper cutter that's in my wish list, and that is the professional paper cutter, and I hope that I can get that very soon. But if you do not want to invest on paper trimmer, that's all good as long as you have a good pair of scissors. Another important thing to have is the ruler. So you can use this tool actually to cut your paper. And I've done that many times. And of course, you need to measure your papers. So yes, the ruler is very useful. And I have this We Are Memory Keepers tier guide. So you don't have to have this, but it's nice to, have a different look on the edges. But ruler is important. And then you need your adhesive, so you can use whatever glue you want. And I have here several. I have the cheapest ones that I get from the dollar store, and then I have, a little pricey glue, which is the Fabri-Tac. Fabri-Tac is my favorite glue because, again, it's very tacky, and I use this all the time when I glue fabric. And for papers, when I sell my journals, basically this is my glue. I love this. And if I am stitching the edges, I use this Craft Melody. This is from the dollar store. It's $1.50, and it does a good work as well. But I need to stitch the edges. I also use the Elmer's glue. This is alright too. And glue stick. Yes, when I am gluing tags, I use that. And then Tacky Glue by Aleene's. It's also a very nice glue. And then the High Tack. Now, this is very creamy, but I also like this in place of my Fabri-Tac. So, nice one too. And this does the work on fabrics too. I also use the double-sided tape, and sometimes I use both double-sided tape and the glue to make sure that everything is just sticking. And then the thread. I use the wax thread that I bought from Amazon a long time ago, and they come in different colors. And I like the beige one. The white one is okay too. I use that a lot too. So it depends on your project. You can also use the embroidery thread. This is fine too, and this was what I used when I was just starting to make junk journals. But now that I am selling my journals, then I make sure that I use the strong one. So I use the wax thread. And then the needles. This repair kit was from Amazon also. And what I like to use was the curved needle. I find that I am able to insert the needle more quickly. And that is also available in the dollar store. And then the awl to make holes. So they come in different sizes. And then the bone folder. This makes your folds more professional looking. And then, of course, you need a pencil. And I find that paper clip is also important because when you clip your papers, they don't tend to move, and it's easier to bind your signatures. Another thing that I really like to use is the Distress Ink by Ranger. And this is optional. You don't have to have this. And of course, you need a blending tool. Again, optional. But I use this when I want to age the paper, which is all the time. So, you have that option. Okay, now let's talk about the supplies or the ephemera, the things that you can include in your book. And again, you can include anything, old materials, new materials, anything. Let me show you what I want to use in my junk journals. And these are copy papers that I stained, and these are avocado dyed. I also use coffee stained paper and tea stain paper. Again, you don't have to, but I like the age look. And then I also use digital files. So these are from my Etsy shop. And I also use pages from old books. Oh, another design from my shop. And again, pages from old books, from old atlas. They make interesting pages. I also use pages from old dictionaries and old music books, so music sheets, and then coupons. And I have flashcards. These are newer flashcards, but I also have a file of vintage flashcards. And then playing cards, so they are interesting to use. So postcards are great too. And I always have postcards in my junk journals. And then I also use Bible verses, or these are from old calendars. These also make good pockets or tucks. And of course, pages from really old books. So this is a vintage book. They can also be used as pockets. And library cards. This is a newer version. I like using envelopes that I coffee stain too. So I use this a lot, and I find this interesting. Of course, vintage books. These are just some of the books from my stash, and I will have another video showing you my collection. And old checks. So most of my junk journals now have old checks as inserts, or as a pocket or as a decoration, just because I have tons of these. And these are Canadian old checks, and they make really good ephemera, really interesting items and elements. So what are ephemera, and what are considered ephemera for junk journals? Basically, ephemera are things that are printed for a specific occasion, a specific purpose, and they are not meant to last after their original use. And examples are bumper stickers, ticket stubs, posters. They are collectible memorabilia and are always paper-based. Ephemera is not normally considered something to save or to cherish or to collect, but for us junk journalers and scrapbookers, we save them and put them in scrapbook pages and junk journal pages. And now that we have our pages, our ephemera, our supplies, the next thing to do is to prepare and assemble the book. And I will have another video showing you how I make covers, how I assemble, how I bind my junk journals. So there you go, everyone. This is my first video in the series of The Joy of Junk Journaling. I hope that you like this. And if you have any questions, leave me a comment down below. Also, I would love to know what you think about this video. Also, please do not forget that I am currently hosting the Road to 3,000 Subscribers series of giveaways, and we are getting closer. I will have the preview of the next prize in the next video. So, thanks again, everyone, for watching. Take care. Stay safe. God bless you. Bye now. Till next time.